Captain Elias Ward sat quietly in the shuttle as it moved through the endless black of space. Outside the window, the stars burned like small lamps scattered across a dark sea. He felt the vibration of the engines beneath his feet and the faint hum of the life support system. Everything about the shuttle felt smaller compared to the weight of his mission. He was the only human envoy sent to meet the Scifi Empire, a people known across the galaxy for their power and their pride. Humanity had only recently entered the larger stage of interstellar politics. For centuries, they had struggled alone, reaching their own moon, then their own planets, and finally building ships that could cross the distances between stars. They were strong in will, but small in number compared to the ancient empires that had existed for thousands of years. The Scifi were the most mysterious of them all. Tall, graceful, and with shimmering eyes that seemed to glow faintly even in the dark, they were said to speak without words. Their minds were open to one another, bound together by telepathic senses. Among themselves, they rarely used spoken language. It was not needed. Elias had studied their history on the long trip. He knew they respected strength, but not in the same way humans did. To the Scifi, strength was not only weapons or ships, it was control of the mind, the ability to shape thoughts and bend emotions with their psychic gifts. Humans had no such gift. That weakness made other empires see them as children playing among giants. Yet Elias carried a duty that was greater than his own life. If this meeting failed, humanity could be crushed before they even found their place among the stars. The shuttle docked with the Scifi station, a massive structure shaped like a great silver flower blooming in space. The petals of the station spread wide, glowing with soft blue lights. As the airlock opened, Elias straightened his uniform and stepped forward. His boots clicked against the polished floor, and he found himself surrounded by tall figures in flowing garments. Their faces were calm, almost too calm, as if no expression was truly needed when their minds were always linked. A voice echoed, not from one mouth but from many. The human envoy has arrived. Elias fought the instinct to look around. He had been warned that Scifi could project thoughts directly into his mind. Yet strangely, he felt nothing. The voices were sound, not thought. That confused him, but he pushed it aside. At the end of the corridor, a figure approached. She was taller than the others, her movements smooth like water flowing in a stream. She wore silver and white robes, and a thin crown rested upon her head. Her eyes glowed a soft violet, brighter than any of the others he had seen. "The Princess Lysera," a guard announced. Elias bowed slightly. He knew Scifi did not always value human gestures, but respect was universal. Lysera stopped in front of him. For a long moment she simply looked at him, her violet eyes searching. Elias expected to feel something, some pressure on his mind, some strange pull. But there was nothing. It was as if she stared into emptiness. Her lips parted slightly, and for the first time she spoke aloud, her voice gentle and almost hesitant. "Why can't you sense me, human?" The question struck Elias. He realized then that she had tried to read his mind, tried to touch the thoughts within him as easily as she did with her people. And she had found nothing. He cleared his throat and answered, "Because we humans cannot do what you can, Princess. We do not hear thoughts. We speak them." The Scifi guards glanced at one another. Some looked unsettled, others even disappointed, but Lysera's eyes remained fixed on Elias. Instead of scorn, there was curiosity in her gaze. "You are empty," she said softly. "A silent mind. I have never known silence before." Elias gave a small smile, though inside he felt the weight of her words. "Silence can be a gift, Your Highness. It means what I choose to share with you, I share with my voice, not because my mind cannot keep it hidden." Her head tilted slightly, studying him as if he were some rare artifact. Strange, yet clear. The guards led him into a grand hall where long tables curved in a circle around a central platform. Scifi nobles sat with calm expressions, their glowing eyes following his every step. No whispers filled the air, No murmurs of doubt, only a heavy silence broken by the faint sound of robes moving. Lysera walked beside him, her presence graceful and commanding. She stopped at the center of the hall and Elias stood at her side. "People of the Serathi," she said, her voice strong though her mind was no doubt already speaking to all of them silently. "The human envoy has come." Elias felt the weight of their attention settle on him. He drew a steady breath and spoke. "I come in peace as a voice of humanity. We do not seek war. We seek friendship, and we hope to stand among you not as rivals, but as allies." The words sounded small in the vast chamber, but they were all he had. One of the nobles leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. "How can we trust a race we cannot sense? You are blind to our thoughts and your own mind is closed to us. Are you not dangerous in your silence?" Murmurs of agreement filled the room, though still wordless. Elias knew they were speaking to one another in the silent web of their minds, leaving him outside alone. He stood taller and replied, "You cannot sense us, it is true. But that does not make us dangerous. It makes us honest. You will hear only the words we choose and judge us by our actions. Trust is not built by reading minds, it is built by choice." For the first time, he saw a flicker of expression across Lysera's face. A small smile touched her lips, faint but real. The hall quieted again. The nobles did not speak further, though their glowing eyes betrayed unease. Elias knew he had not yet won them, but he had not lost either. Later, as he was led to his quarters on the station, Lysera walked beside him once more. She studied him with the same quiet intensity as before. "Human," she said softly. "Your silence is strange to me, but when you speak your words, they feel stronger than thought." Elias looked at her. "Maybe because words are all we have, princess. Without voices, we would be alone." Lysera paused at his door. Her violet eyes met his, glowing faintly in the dim corridor. "I wonder if silence can teach us something we have forgotten. Perhaps you will show me." She turned and walked away, her robes trailing like silver mist. Elias stood in the doorway, watching her go. The mission had only begun, but he felt something shifting already. The princess had asked why she could not sense him, but the true question that lingered in his mind was different. Could silence build a bridge between two worlds? The following day, Captain Elias Ward woke to the soft chime of the Serathi station. The walls of his chamber glowed faint blue, as if the room itself breathed with the rhythm of the station. The air carried a faint fragrance, sweet but sharp, almost like metal touched with flowers. It reminded him that he was far from Earth, far from the familiar. He dressed quickly in his envoy uniform and stepped into the corridor. Two tall Serathi guards waited for him. Their glowing eyes gave no hint of emotion, only silent watchfulness. Without a word, they began to walk, and Elias followed. They led him through long, curved halls. Every surface seemed smooth, grown rather than built. The station had no sharp edges, no bolts or seams like human ships. It was beautiful, but also strange, too perfect as if made by thought rather than hands. At last, the doors opened into a garden. Elias paused, surprised. A wide dome stretched overhead, letting light spill in like warm sunlight, though he knew they were deep in space. Trees with silver bark rose tall, their leaves a deep green with veins of gold. Water streamed gently through channels in the floor, filling the air with a soft murmur. And there, waiting at the center of the garden, stood Princess Lysera. She turned as he entered, her violet eyes glowing faintly even in the bright air. "You are awake," she said softly. Elias bowed slightly. "Your Highness." She shook her head. "Here, you need not bow. I asked for you to be brought here because I wish to understand you. You are different." Elias smiled faintly. "So I've been told." Lysera tilted her head, studying him with calm intensity. "When I stand with my people, I feel their thoughts flow around me. Their voices are never silent, even when their mouths do not move. But when I stand with you, She paused, frowning slightly as if searching for the right words. There is nothing. And yet your face, your voice, they reveal more than some thoughts do. Elias walked closer, stopping at the edge of the small stream. That is how we live, Princess. We do not hear each other's thoughts. We have to listen, to watch, to trust. Her eyes softened. Trust, a word your kind uses often. But trust is not always needed among us. We cannot hide easily. Our thoughts betray us if we lie. Maybe that is why humans are careful with words, Elias said gently. Because we know lies are possible, and when someone speaks truth, it means more. Lysera stood silent, her gaze steady on him. Then, to his surprise, she sat down on a low stone near the water and motioned for him to join her. Sit, human. Speak with me. I wish to hear your words. Elias lowered himself onto the stone across from her. For a time, they sat in quiet, listening to the water's flow. Then Lysera asked, Do humans always rely on speech? Is there no other sense that binds you? Elias thought for a moment. We have something called body language. A glance, a smile, a frown. Those can say much without words. And we feel emotions strongly. Sometimes, even if nothing is spoken, we know what someone we care about feels. But it is not the same as what you have. Lysera studied him, curiosity shining in her eyes. Show me. Elias blinked. Show you? Yes. This body language. Speak to me without words. For a moment he hesitated. Then he leaned back slightly, raising an eyebrow. His arms folded. Across his chest in mock seriousness, though a small smile tugged at his lips. Lysera's eyes widened, then softened. You are amused. Playful. Elias chuckled. Not bad. Then he let his smile fade, his posture turning straight, his gaze steady and sharp. Her face changed as well, her glowing eyes narrowing in thought. Now you are serious, focused. Elias nodded. Exactly. You see? We can speak without words, though it is not as clear as what you do. Lysera's lips curved faintly, almost the hint of a smile. It is delicate, not strong like thought, but gentle. And yet, I feel it. For the first time, Elias noticed warmth in her tone, as if her perfect calm had cracked just enough to show something human. Before he could reply, a sound filled the air, a sharp tone, not unlike a bell. 2 guards stepped into the garden and bowed. Princess, one said, the council gathers. The matter of the human envoy must be discussed. Lysera rose gracefully, her robes flowing like water. She turned to Elias. You must come. They will question you, and I will listen. Elias stood as well, bracing himself. He had expected this moment, but not so soon. The council chamber was vast, shaped like a great circle. At its center stood a platform, and upon it Elias was placed. Around him, Sarathi nobles sat in rising rows, their glowing eyes fixed on him. Lysera took her seat at the high dais, beside her father the emperor, a tall figure with silver hair and eyes that glowed like molten steel. The emperor's voice carried across the chamber, deep and resonant. Human, you stand before the Sarathi council. We will decide if your kind is worthy of trust. Elias bowed his head slightly. I understand, Your Majesty. A noble leaned forward. You cannot be sensed. Your mind is hidden. This is dangerous. We cannot know your truth. Another spoke sharply. Perhaps it is a trick. Perhaps humans are not empty but shielded, keeping secrets from us. Whispers flowed through the chamber, silent and unseen, their minds touching one another in a network Elias could never enter. He felt the weight of his isolation, the emptiness between himself and them. Then Lysera's voice cut through the noise. Yet he speaks plainly. His words carry no deceit that I can feel. His silence may be different, but perhaps it is not danger. It is simply another way. The emperor's glowing eyes turned to her. Daughter, your defense is bold, but difference does not prove trust. Elias raised his head. Majesty, I will not ask you to trust me today. Trust cannot be demanded. It must be built. All I ask is the chance to show you, not through thoughts, but through actions. For a moment the chamber fell silent. Then murmurs began again, louder this time. Some nobles seemed intrigued, others angered. At last the emperor raised his hand and silence returned. You will remain among us, human envoy. We will watch you, and we will decide. The council ended and the nobles filed out. Lysera descended from her seat and approached Elias. You spoke bravely, she said softly, but the council is divided. Some fear you, some are curious, and some will act against you. Elias met her gaze. Then I must be careful. Lysera nodded. And I will watch as well. You are not like us, but perhaps that is why you are needed. She turned, her robes whispering across the floor, and Elias followed the guards back to his quarters. But her words stayed with him. Not like us, she had said. Perhaps that was the beginning of something more powerful than he yet understood. Days passed aboard the Scifi station. For Captain Elias Ward, each day felt like walking across a thin bridge over a deep chasm. The Scifi nobles watched him with cautious eyes, and whispers, silent whispers of the mind, spread wherever he went. He could not hear them, but he could feel the weight of their judgment. Yet not all eyes were cold. Sometimes, when Lysera was near, he felt a different kind of attention. Her gaze was searching but softer, curious rather than suspicious. She often asked him to walk with her in the gardens or the long corridors, as if his presence itself was something she wished to study. One evening, she led him to a balcony overlooking the vast stretch of stars. The station's lights shimmered against the darkness, and far below, ships moved like fireflies. Human, she said quietly, standing beside him. I have listened to you more than I have listened to anyone before. Do you know why? Elias glanced at her, then shook his head. I cannot guess, Princess. Because your silence does not push on my mind. With my people, even when I close myself, their thoughts press against me. With you, there is only space. It is freeing. Elias smiled faintly. Then maybe silence has its gifts after all. Before she could answer, the station shuddered. The balcony floor trembled beneath their feet. Alarms rang sharp and high, unlike anything Elias had heard before. Guards rushed into the hall, their eyes glowing with sudden alarm. Attack, one shouted. The outer ring has been breached. Lysera stiffened, her calm shattering. Elias grabbed her arm instinctively, steadying her as the station shook again. What's happening? He asked quickly. A ship has struck the ring. The guard answered, his voice tight. The hull is damaged. We must move the princess. They hurried through the corridors, the glow of the walls flickering as if the station itself was in pain. Elias kept close to Lysera, watching as nobles and servants rushed past. The Scifi were calm even in crisis, but he could see the fear in their eyes. When they reached the inner hall, a noble in dark robes stepped forward, his voice sharp. This is the human's doing. Only moments before the breach, his shuttle. Records show energy spikes. He has betrayed us. The words spread through the chamber like fire. Eyes turned on Elias, glowing with suspicion. Elias stood firm. That's a lie. My shuttle is powerless without your permission. You know this. But the noble's voice rose. He is unreadable. His mind is closed. He hides his true purpose. For the first time, Elias saw anger on Lysera's face. She stepped forward, her voice clear. Enough. He was with me when the attack came. I felt no deceit in him. The noble sneered. And what if he has clouded even your mind, Princess? What if your curiosity blinds you? The chamber filled with murmurs, their silent thoughts weaving through the air. Elias could feel the isolation pressing on him again, heavier than before. Then the alarm screamed louder. A wall display lit up, showing flames in the outer ring and worse, life support failures spreading through nearby sections. Elias didn't wait. He turned to the guards. Where is the manual override for the fire systems? The guards looked at him as if confused that a human would ask. Lysera, however, caught his urgency. She pointed down a corridor. There, but the path is dangerous. I'll take it, Elias said firmly. You are not trained in our systems, one guard argued. Elias shook his head. I don't need training, I need instinct. Lead me there. Before anyone could protest further, Elias ran, Lysera at his side despite the guard's hesitation. Smoke already filled the corridor ahead, silver gray under the station lights. Sparks showered from broken panels. Elias pulled a cloth from his uniform, pressing it to his mouth. Stay close. Lysera did not argue. For once, she trusted his command. They reached the fire control station, a tall pillar of crystal panels and glowing lines. Elias studied it for a heartbeat. The design was strange, alien, but the pattern of switches and valves had a kind of logic. He had worked on ships before, repaired broken systems with his own hands. This was different, yet not impossible. He reached forward, pulling a lever. Alarms shifted in pitch. A vent opened above, drawing smoke away. The flames weakened, as oxygen was cut off. You did it, Lysera whispered, surprise in her voice. Elias exhaled, sweat on his brow. Not yet. We need to seal the damaged ring. Together with the guards, he found the emergency locks and slammed them shut. The trembling of the station eased. Slowly, the alarms dimmed. When the danger was finally over, Elias leaned against the wall exhausted. Lysera stood beside him, her glowing eyes watching. You acted without hesitation, she said softly. You saved us. Elias shook his head. I did what anyone would do. No, Lysera replied firmly. Not anyone. Many of my people would have stood waiting for command, listening for orders through the mind link. But you moved. Alone. Without certainty, without guidance. That is not weakness. That is strength. Her words struck him deeper than he expected. For the first time since arriving, he felt not just tolerated, but respected. The guards escorted them back to safety. But suspicion still lingered among the nobles. Whispers grew that humans could not be trusted. Some believed Elias had caused the sabotage himself to gain favor by saving the princess. Later, in the quiet of her chambers, Lysera faced Elias again. She looked at him with a seriousness that left no space for doubt. Someone seeks to use you as a weapon against us, she said. They will strike again and they will blame you. You must be careful. Elias nodded slowly. Then I need your help, princess. Alone, I am just a stranger. Here, but if you stand with me, maybe your people will listen. Lysera's eyes glowed brighter, steady on his. I will stand with you, for I believe your silence speaks louder than their words. Elias bowed his head. Then we face this together. Outside the chamber, shadows moved. The noble who had accused Elias earlier stood in the darkness, watching. His lips curved into a thin smile. The human had gained the princess's trust. That made him more dangerous than ever. And in the hidden corners of the Scifi station, the true conspirators prepared their next move. The council chamber was filled again. Elias stood in the center of the circular hall, surrounded by Scifi nobles whose glowing eyes burned with suspicion and caution. Their faces were calm, almost statuesque, yet he could feel the weight of judgment pressing down on him. Every silent glance, every shared thought seemed to whisper, "Is this human to be trusted?" Princess Lysera stepped forward, her presence commanding the attention of all. The soft glow of her violet eyes shone like a beacon. "Enough," she said, her voice calm but firm. "The accusations against Captain Elias are false. He has saved lives, not destroyed them." A noble leaned forward, his eyes sharp. "Princess, the human's mind is closed. He could hide anything. How can you be certain of his truth?" Lysera's gaze did not waver. "Because I felt it in his actions. Thoughts can be hidden, but courage and honesty cannot. I have seen him act when danger threatened us. He did not hesitate. That is not the behavior of a traitor." A murmur spread through the chamber. Some nobles were impressed, others unconvinced. Elias felt a chill run down his spine. The Sirathi were proud and cautious, and convincing them would take more than words. "I have gathered evidence," Elias said steadily. "Evidence that proves the sabotage came from within your council, from those who wish to manipulate fear against humans." The chamber fell silent. Lysera's eyes met his, glowing brighter, and she motioned for him to continue. Elias stepped forward and activated a holomap on the floor. Lines of light spread, showing energy flows from the station's systems. "Here," he said, pointing to one channel. "Energy spikes were injected here, just before the attack. The data logs show they were initiated by these nobles, not me." Gasps spread across the chamber. The nobles' silent thoughts rippled with shock and outrage. One of the accused, a tall noble with silver robes, attempted to interrupt. "This is impossible. Only a human." "No." Lysera raised her hand. "Enough. Let the evidence speak. We judge by facts, not fear." The chamber watched as the logs displayed more than just the attack. It revealed a coordinated plan to frame humans for sabotage, to provoke war, and to seize power from the Emperor. Elias felt the tension rise. If action is not taken, innocent lives will be at risk and the conspirators will succeed. But if we act together, we can prevent their plan. A noble whispered, perhaps in fear or agreement. Another nodded slowly. The balance of power in the chamber was shifting, but the conspirators were not defeated yet. Lysera turned to Elias. "We must confront them. Alone, I cannot. But together, we can end this." Elias nodded. "Then we move quickly. I cannot rely on your telepathy and you cannot rely on mine, but we can rely on trust, instinct, and action." The corridors of the station were quieter than usual. The conspirators had withdrawn, planning their next move. Elias and Lysera moved swiftly, accompanied by 2 loyal Sirathi guards. "This way," Lysera whispered, guiding them toward the lower control chambers. "They may try to block the doors. Their strength is in numbers and surprise, but humans have unexpected methods." Elias followed closely, his eyes scanning the walls for any danger. He could feel his heart pounding in anticipation. The human instinct for survival, for quick decisions in moments of crisis, was sharpened. He had faced danger before, but this was different. The stakes were political, and one wrong move could cost not only his life, but hers, and the peace of the entire empire. Suddenly, a panel ahead flickered, and a group of figures emerged. The conspirators had anticipated their approach. "Stop!" one shouted, his eyes glowing with psychic intensity. "You will not reveal our plan." Elias did not pause. He grabbed a nearby control lever, causing the floor lights to flash and disorient the attackers briefly. The guards leaped forward, striking with precision, while Lysera used her telepathic influence to confuse their thoughts and slow their movements. It was a delicate dance, her psychic abilities and his human instincts moving together, complementing each other. Where her power was precise, his adaptability was flexible. Where she could influence minds, he could act unpredictably. One conspirator lunged at Elias and he sidestepped, pushing a panel that released a cascade of lights and sounds. The sudden disruption gave Lysera the chance to immobilize another with a mental hold. "You are remarkable," Lysera whispered, almost to herself, as she watched Elias move with courage and determination. "You are not like anyone I have ever known." Elias glanced at her briefly. "And you are braver than I expected. Leading your people into danger, standing against your own council, this takes more than thought." Together they reached the core of the control chambers. Here the conspirators had tried to manipulate the station's navigation systems, intending to force a collision with a nearby trade vessel and frame humans. Elias quickly accessed the control panel. Though the interface was alien, the logic behind it was understandable. His fingers moved swiftly, recalibrating the systems to safety. "Almost there," he muttered. "Just a few more adjustments." Lysera stood beside him, her mind alert, watching for any psychic interference. "Hurry," They will not wait. At last the systems hummed in harmony. The threat was neutralized, lights stabilized and alarms quieted. The conspirators, seeing their plan fail, attempted to flee. Lysera raised her hand, projecting a wave of psychic influence that stopped them long enough for the guards to detain them. Elias exhaled, finally allowing himself a small moment of relief. It's done. Lysera looked at him, her violet eyes brighter than ever. It is done because of both of us, because you acted with courage, and because I trusted your actions. Humans, perhaps your way is not so weak after all. Elias smiled faintly. We are not perfect. We have no psychic bonds, no instant thoughts, but we can choose. And sometimes choice is stronger than power. She stepped closer, her voice low. I see it now. Your silence is not emptiness. It is space. Space to act, to think, to surprise. Your mind is your own, and that is your strength. The guards escorted the conspirators away, securing them for the Emperor. Lysera turned to Elias. Come with me. The Emperor must hear of your actions firsthand. The Emperor's chamber was grand, the walls glowing with soft light. He regarded Elias with a long, steady gaze. You have acted with wisdom and courage, human, he said, and you have prevented disaster not through psychic skill but through action. I underestimated your kind. Elias bowed respectfully. Majesty, I did what I could. I only followed my instincts and trusted that my judgment would serve the right purpose. Lysera stepped forward. Father, you see now. Humans may not be like us. They cannot be read. Their minds cannot be touched. But they can be trusted. And their actions, their choices speak louder than thoughts. The Emperor's eyes softened slightly, the first hint of approval Elias had felt from him. Perhaps you are right, daughter. Perhaps trust is not only in shared thoughts but in deeds. Lysera glanced at Elias, a faint smile touching her lips. It seems, human, that your kind has much to teach us yet. Elias allowed himself a small smile in return. For the first time, he felt more than survival. He felt recognition and perhaps respect. Outside the chamber, the corridors were calm. The danger had passed, at least for now. But both Elias and Lysera knew the galaxy was vast, and threats could rise again. Yet something had changed. Where before there was doubt, now there was a fragile bond between a human and a princess. A bond built not on mind reading but on trust, courage, and choice. For Elias, it was a reminder that humanity's greatest strength was not psychic power or advanced technology. It was the ability to act, to choose, and to connect in ways no one could predict. For Lysera, it was the first lesson in humility and understanding. Power was not always in thought or control. Sometimes it was in courage, trust, and the willingness to stand together when all else failed. And in that quiet understanding, both felt the beginnings of something new, a bridge between two very different worlds. The Scifi station was quiet in the hours before the morning council. For Captain Elias Ward, the calm was unusual. Even after the sabotage had been stopped and the conspirators detained, he felt a lingering tension. The Scifi were proud and cautious. Trust was earned slowly, not granted. Lysera walked beside him through the long corridors of the station, her robes whispering against the polished floor. Her violet eyes, faintly glowing, were thoughtful. The council will meet soon. They will decide how to view humans after what happened. Elias nodded. And what will they decide? Some will see courage. Some will still see threat. But it no longer matters. I know your truth, and that is what counts. She glanced at him, a soft smile forming. You acted as humans do best. Not with power, but with choice. That is why I trust you. Elias allowed himself a small smile in return. I never expected to earn trust so quickly. Humans usually take longer to prove themselves. She laughed lightly, a sound that was gentle and musical, breaking the calm. Perhaps that is why you are remarkable. Your kind surprises us. You are not predictable, and that is Refreshing. The council chamber was full once more. Nobles, gathered in their circle, eyes glowing, whispering through silent thoughts. Elias stepped into the center, guided by Lysera, who walked confidently beside him. The Emperor sat high above, his gaze steady and commanding. "Captain Elias Ward," the Emperor began, "you have acted with bravery and wisdom. You have prevented disaster, exposed conspirators, and protected the Empire. Yet some among my council remain wary of your kind. Speak now. Explain why humans should be trusted." Elias took a deep breath. He felt no fear, only determination. He knew that words alone might not sway them, but truth, combined with honesty and humility, had power. "Your Majesty," he said, his voice steady, "humans cannot be sensed as you can sense one another. Our minds are closed. But that does not mean we are dangerous. It means that our actions, our choices, and our words are all we have. We show who we are through what we do, not what we hide or reveal through thought." The chamber was silent. Even the murmurs of silent voices seemed to pause, waiting for him to continue. "Some believe our silence is weakness. It is not. Humans survive because we adapt, because we trust one another, because we choose courage even when fear is strong. Our minds may be unreadable, but our hearts are open to those we value. That is why I acted to save the station and the princess. It was not instinct alone, it was choice. Choice guided by loyalty, trust, and responsibility." Lysera's eyes glowed brighter, almost shining with pride. "Well said," she murmured softly. The Emperor leaned forward slightly, his glowing eyes examining Elias. Then slowly, he spoke. "Perhaps your kind is stronger than I thought. Not in psychic power, not in controlling others, but in the strength of will, of choice, and of loyalty. Humans are different, yet difference can be strength." A few nobles nodded slowly. Some remained unconvinced, but the council had begun to shift. Elias felt relief, though he kept his posture steady. Trust was still fragile, but it was growing. Later, Lysera took Elias to the observation deck. The stars stretched endlessly before them, silent and bright. Below, the Scifi station seemed to pulse gently, alive in its perfection. "You have changed my view of humans," Lysera said softly. "Before, I thought silence meant weakness, but now I see it differently. You are remarkable, not because you are strong, but because you choose to act when it matters." Elias looked at her, his smile faint but sincere. "And you, Princess, are remarkable as well. You trusted me when others doubted. That trust made all the difference. Without it, we could not have faced the conspirators." Lysera stepped closer. Her gaze was gentle, her violet eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. "You are not like anyone I have ever met. You are human, and you are Scifi," Elias replied. "But more than that, you are brave. You led your people against fear and conspiracy, and you chose to see the truth rather than the lie whispered in silence." She studied him for a long moment. Then, almost as if testing something, she asked softly again, "Why can't you sense me, human?" Elias paused. He thought of all the moments they had shared, the gardens, the council, the danger they had faced together. He thought of her curiosity, her pride, her trust, and finally her smile when the sabotage had been stopped. He met her gaze and said, "Because some bonds are meant to be felt, not read. I cannot sense your mind, Princess, but I can see your courage. I can feel your honesty. That is more than any mind reading could give me." Lysera's eyes softened, a glow of understanding spreading across her features. She took a deep breath. "Then perhaps humans have a kind of strength we cannot measure, a strength of choice, of action, and of heart." "Yes," Elias said. "That is what we have. That is who we are." For the first time she smiled fully, a gentle warmth in her expression. "Then maybe your kind is exactly what the galaxy needs. Not power over minds, but power of will, courage, and trust." Elias felt something lift in his chest. For years, humanity had struggled to prove itself among the stars. Now, on this station, he felt they had begun to do so. Not through advanced weapons, not through psychic abilities, but through the qualities that defined them as humans. Choice, courage, and connection. The days that followed were calm but full of subtle change. The Sarathi Council had decided to formally recognize the humans as allies, though some nobles still watched cautiously. The conspirators had been detained, and the emperor had praised both Lysera and Elias for their courage and wisdom. In the quiet moments, Lysera and Elias continued to meet, walking in the gardens or the corridors, speaking of small things. She asked him about Earth, about humans, about how they lived and learned. He explained their history, their struggles, and their triumphs. She listened with fascination, her violet eyes wide with curiosity. "You humans are strange," she said, one day. "You cannot touch thoughts as we do, yet you know loyalty, trust, and courage better than many of my people. Perhaps that is why I could not sense you. You are not meant to be read. You are meant to be known through action and choice." Elias chuckled softly. "Perhaps that is our gift. We survive not because we are powerful, but because we can choose. And when we choose wisely, that choice can make all the difference." She studied him for a long moment. "Then perhaps your kind is exactly what the galaxy needs. Not domination, not control, but honesty, courage, and trust." Elias met her gaze, smiling faintly. "I hope so, Princess. I truly hope so." Weeks passed, and humanity began its formal presence in Sarathi space. Humans were still few, and their technology less advanced than the great empires surrounding them. But their reputation grew, not for the ability to dominate, but for their integrity, courage, and unexpected brilliance in crisis. Lysera stood beside Elias one evening on the observation deck, watching ships move through the station's docking bays. "I have learned something," she said softly. "The human mind may be silent, but it is alive in ways my people cannot see. Your kind teaches patience, trust, and choice. Perhaps that is the greatest power of all." Elias nodded. "And perhaps that is why humans survive, even among empires far older and stronger. We do not rely on reading minds or controlling others or perfect understanding. We rely on what is within us, courage, trust, and action. That is our gift." Lysera's eyes glowed faintly. She stepped closer. "Then you are not only my ally, human. You are a teacher, and perhaps a friend." Elias felt warmth rise in his chest. "And you, Princess, are more than my ally. You are someone who believes in us when others doubt, someone who trusts courage and action over fear. That is a rare gift, Lysera, one I will never forget." They stood together, looking out at the stars. Silent and bright, the stars seemed to stretch endlessly, a universe of possibilities. And in that vastness, they had discovered a truth that could change everything. Sometimes the greatest power was not mind or magic, but heart, choice, and trust. Lysera turned to Elias one last time, her voice soft but certain. "Why can't you sense me?" Elias smiled faintly, his gaze steady. "Because some bonds are meant to be felt, Princess, and the bond we share is ours to feel, not read." She nodded, understanding in her eyes, and for the first time, the space between their kinds, human and Sarathi, felt like a bridge, not a barrier. The galaxy was vast. Threats would come, doubts would linger, and the stars would continue to shine in silence. Yet humanity had proven something enduring. Their strength lay not in mind-reading or psychic control, but in choice, courage, loyalty, and trust. And in that truth, the human and the princess stood together, ready to face whatever the galaxy had in store.